You're under me. Productions shoot interview with the future icon, Nick Vortex. What's happening?
Not much is happening at all.
All right. First of all, we'll start with the basic questions. How long have you been wrestling in our area, or in general?
Wrestling in the area, I'd say probably in the proximity of 5.5 to 6 years, something like that.
5.5, 6 years. How long have you been into professional wrestling? Obviously, you got into it at some point and decided, hey, I want to do this. Were you a fan growing up? Did you become a 97, 98 fan?
No, I was a fan earlier. I remember the Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior feud. They capped off at WrestleMania 6, and then it faded a little bit after that. And then I came back in right around the whole Macho Man getting married scenario in '91, I think that was. And then it really took off in '92, and that's when I really started watching wrestling. And
strictly WWF?
At first, yes. Strictly WWF because it was the easiest to find on TV. It was the easiest to find on the magazine racks. The toys were all over the place, stuff like that. I mean, WWF was just permeating all through everything. And then WrestleMania 8 came around, and that was still my favorite WrestleMania that's ever happened. It was from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, and I from that point on, it was just the Hoosier Dome was cool to me. Wrestling was cool to me. WWF, Hulk Hogan, Sid, and then there was Macho Flair, and anything that revolved around that interested me. I started liking the Indianapolis Colts at that point. I started I even watched the Indy 500 a couple times. I mean, just different bullshit like that came from the fact that I enjoyed that WrestleMania so much. Mm-hmm. And that was back when WrestleMania was an event.
What was the third match on that card?
Third match on that card was Hitman Roddy Piper.
Okay.
And recite the commentary from that man. No, just kidding.
From that point on, I was totally hooked, and there was no turning back.
Were there any favorites?
The favorites at that point, I was a big Macho Man mark. I enjoyed the Macho Man a lot, and then Bret Hart at the same time, and then at that point I was still baby faces. I was like 12 years old. Baby faces were really important. You liked the baby faces, you hated the heels, but at the same time, I was developing into the point where I could enjoy anybody. So I really liked Shawn Michaels, and that was the one who became my favorite throughout.
Mm-hmm. At that point, he was tag team with.
No, he wasn't. He was freshly singles at that point.
He was heel at that point.
He was a heel. He, matter of fact, the first match, WrestleMania 8, he wrestled El Matador.
Okay.
With Sensational Sherry outside. But after WrestleMania 8, it was whatever wrestling I could get, anything. WCW, NWA, Japan, mm-hmm. any of that stuff. And then that's when I found that I liked people like Muda, and because the moonsault was incredible at that time. Mm-hmm. Nobody did that.
Right.
I really liked Arn Anderson, because the spine buster was huge, just because it looked so cool,
right.
and it looked like it hurt. And I guess it sounds marky, but I do all that stuff now.
Right.
You know what I mean? I throw a spine buster in my matches. I do a standing moonsault, stuff like that, and it's just from '92 on. It's just the stuff that I've always enjoyed.
At what point did you say, hey, I don't want to be involved as a fan anymore. I want to be involved. I want to get into the business. I want to learn how to become a wrestler. And was there a specific point in your life when you said, hey, I want to do this?
I would say it was just pre-Monday Night Wars.
How old were you at that point?
Monday Night Wars started in what, 96?
Yeah.
Roughly. I was 16. I'd say right around the time when you had Diesel as the champion. Mm-hmm. Then the Iron Man match came around with Shawn Michaels winning that, and that era was what made me say, you know, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe watching it's not enough for me. I mean, kids that watch baseball want to play baseball.
Right.
You know, kids that play football watch football. So why is wrestling different? You know what I mean? And that's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't because of the life of the wrestler. It wasn't because, you know, maybe you can get chicks or money or anything like that. It was just like, hey, that looks like a lot of fun.
Something you could make money off of and have fun doing it.
Not even money. I didn't even care.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, wrestling down here, I still don't care.
Um,
I don't mean that.
So at what point did you actually decide, hey, I'm going to go train? How did you choose where you were going to go train? And did anything happen before training that...
Well, the Backyard Boys gimmick
Yeah, which was assigned to you by Bobby Dahl.
was assigned to me by Bobby Dahl last second, right before we walked out.
Uh-huh.
Was shoot. Bobby, there's a big story that goes with this. Eric and I, Iceberg, we're backyard wrestlers.
Now are we talking, you guys shove stuff in each other's eye sockets?
No, nothing like that. We weren't, the idiots on TV that break light bulbs and jump off houses.
So you were emulating what you saw on TV?
Right, it was
as
moves.
far as moves.
I mean, and hardcore thrown in there, but nothing stupid. Well, we lit a table on fire, but nothing
Where did this happen?
in backyard.
Where were the mom and dads or the parents while you were lighting stuff on fire?
I don't know. Chris Westbrook's backyard.
Is he just a friend?
He's my sister's boyfriend now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we lit a table on fire, and I went through it. And
This was something that was premeditated. You guys had
yeah,
planned on
it was
setting
planned, and I was soaking wet. And I mean, we took every safety precaution possible because I didn't want to like.
Except not going through a flaming table.
There was that. So yeah, we did the backyard thing, and that happened. And training was always an option. Training was always important, or we wanted to train. Well, Eric got in touch with this one guy that I couldn't tell you his name to save my life.
Where was it?
He was from around here, Fort Walton or something like that, and he was buddies with Bobby Wilson, I think.
The promoter of WFW.
Yeah, and that was back when Bobby Wilson, I think, was running pretty hot. And we went to that show in Fort Walton at Chester Pruitt for a Bobby Wilson show.
Just to
and-
watch?
Yeah.
You paid fans? You guys...
Well, we got him free, but to watch.
Okay.
We went in there, and so then Bobby Wilson's like, he came down, and I guess this guy had said we were backyarders, this and that. And Bobby Wilson came down and was like, oh, I'll book you.
Really?
Yeah, that night.
And you had no training?
Not a bit.
Just stuff that you'd done in the backyard?
Yeah.
And he was ready to book you for a show?
And he was ready to book us in a battle royal or something like that, which, now I realize doesn't take much talent, but still, I don't want to hurt myself,
Sure.
We bowed out of that. We didn't, And aside from us bowing out of it, Bobby Dahl owned the ring, and he had a problem with it, which I'm not knocking Bobby for that at all. That's totally understandable. Totally understandable. So, it was either Bobby Wilson or this other guy tried to talk Bobby Dahl, into training us. And Bobby Dahl said, no, I want nothing to do with those guys.
Because you were
Because
backyarders?
we were backyarders. And in retrospect, I can see where he was coming from. At the time, I thought he was an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally see where he's coming from. So, Eric was good and bad about talking to anybody. Which...
And this is Iceberg, who became your partner.
Who was my partner. He was good and bad about talking to anybody, and the thing is almost like he'd shoot himself in the foot and take me with him.
Right.
Which became a problem later. Which I'll get into later when it comes to that point of the story. But
Make sure you project, because the camera might not pick up your voice.
right on.